Now, General Dhruv Katoch, we talked about the infiltration, and Sushant Sareen said that Indian Army right now does not want to escalate matters and give Pak Army a handle. But how do you deal with the likes of a Colonel Yunus Chaudhary, who will not only identify somebody who has been repatriated back in 2017 on humanitarian grounds, knows that he's got 6 siblings and mouths to feed. The condition in POJK is such that people are desperate to do whatever. This guy openly says, मुझे यूनिस चौधरी ने भेजा मारने के लिए.
Anand, something comes out very clearly from this confession. One, life is so cheap in Pakistan that they will send a suicide bomber for 30,000 Pakistani rupees, which in real terms is about 12,000 Indian rupees. That is how cheap life can get there. It is absolutely worthless. One. Number two, we don't really need to prove the complicity of the Pakistan Army. We have known this now for 30 years. But the question is, we are still maintaining a ceasefire, and the logic given was, okay, the threshold as of now is low. My point actually is quite different. It is irrelevant of the threshold. We need to have deterrence. And I am not saying that we break the ceasefire all across the line of control. I am saying any person from the Pakistan military who has given support to terrorist actions will be treated as the enemy and destroyed. Now, if the Pakistan Army subsequently wishes to escalate it, that is up to them. But from our side, the posts which were alongside where this infiltration was attempted, they have assisted terrorism into India. They are the enemy, and we are legally obliged to destroy them. Now, this is the message as a deterrence which must go across. It must be put across as a military doctrine. And it must be conveyed to the Pakistanis that any post which is giving support to terrorists will be destroyed. Now, shift the onus to them. We have been defensive for too long. We must take up the offense once again. And if they still continue, then take on a few surgical operations across the line of control, the way we have done earlier, and destroy and raise their camps to the ground. Deterrence is the key. I'm afraid we are not being deterrent enough, and we need to start it now.
Yeah, and we don't need to put bodies behind. We don't need to put bodies across. We don't need to send bodies across. When a BrahMos, by default there was a technical fault and it lost its way, the Pakistanis got spooked. We can always send in a swarm of drones. अरे टेस्ट फायर कर रहे थे, गलती से उधर आ गया और पूरा आपका पीओजे के पूरा कैंप वहाँ पे टेरर बेसिस डिस्ट्रॉय हो गए. सॉरी, गलती हो गई. We don't need to put bodies now. Today we have the technology, and if they can do multiple drone drops to drop arms and ammunition, why can't we send just one swarm and kill and finish off the entire terror network there? And also send a personal message to Yunus Chaudhary that put some value to life, Sushant Sareen, and tell them, improve the quality of life rather than sending them here to die.
Anand, I agree with what General Katoch is saying. I don't, it's not that I'm in disagreement with him. But look, it entirely depends upon how much escalation you want. If you take an action like the ones you are suggesting, which we can take, then the other side also gets a vote. And so I think maybe I'm not privy to how the government of India thinks. But maybe the calculation is that, let's take this, a step-by-step kind of an approach. Let's not have an immediate reaction. That is one part of it. Another part of it, where I have a slight, I don't think we disagree really, because I agree with General Katoch when he says that we don't have to prove anything about, what the Pakistan Army is doing. They've been doing it for decades now. But I think there is something to be said for lawfare. Now, once you get hold of the name of the colonel, and this is not a Colonel Sayyid, this is a very specific name, Yunus Chaudhary, right? And you have the name of this character who has been caught.
Tabarruk Hussain.
Maybe it would have been a good idea that if you had managed to get, and I don't know whether the Indian agencies have managed to get, but some kind of mugshots of that colonel, his Pakistan Army number, this fellow's national identity card, you could try and look at exactly to prove his identity that he's a Pakistani. So that would be part of the kind of lawfare exercises which we are supposed to be doing. The third question and the third issue is, I disagree with Tejinder, your correspondent, when he says that Indian Army was from the goodness of its heart. It is not the business of the Indian Army to show goodness of the heart to enemies. I think what the Indian Army did was a very smart thing. Smart thing in the sense that they saved this guy's life simply because they could make him sing like a canary, right? So that's the smart thing to do. Otherwise, ideally, I believe that the Indian Army should shoot these guys down without any mercy shown to them. And the last thing I want to say is, again, taking off from your report, if this fellow had been repatriated about 3, 4, 5 years back, I think it raises a very serious question of what quote unquote is called accidental crossing over of LOC. Somebody was coming to see an Indian film, somebody was chasing his goat. It's like what used to happen in Kashmir in the old days. Nobody was chucking stones, somebody was coming from tuition, somebody was coming from a cricket match.
Correct.
It was only ghosts who were throwing stones. So the point which I'm trying to make is that there are these so-called accidental crossovers, and I think we need to put a stop to it.
Nothing is accidental.
To it because there is nothing accidental about those crossovers, and you have to put these people through the mill because it is very clear from this particular episode that these are people or kids who are sent to try and scout around, to try and see where things are, to try and see how
they're somewhere trained to lose their way, and in the end and in the process spot everything and go back and report. Amjad Ayub Mirza.
And Anand, if it's a 15-16-year-old kid, everybody's heart starts bleeding, and you say, okay, fine, repatriate the poor kid back, right? I think you need to probably have a review of that particular policy,
right?
And maybe these people as infiltrators, as saboteurs, as potential terrorists who need to be shown no mercy.
True.